In the beautiful and bustling city of Rome, a millionaire decides to put his son's girlfriend's character to the test. Suspicious of the young woman's intentions, he disguises himself as a garbage collector to closely observe her behavior. However, what seemed like a simple test turns into something much more complex and mysterious. The secrets revealed throughout this journey will leave the family shaken forever. Giovanni, although happy to see his son in love, always had the habit of being cautious about who approached his family. Something about Beatrice didn't seem right to him. The young woman was charming, polite, and intelligent, but Giovanni's instinct told him there was something more. Determined to protect Luca, he devised an unusual plan to disguise himself as a garbage collector and observe Beatrice without her knowing. One morning, Giovanni, wearing a simple and worn-out uniform, entered the neighborhood where Beatrice lived. The idea was to test how she treated a common person without the wealth and power that his name carried. Giovanni, on the phone with Roberto, while putting on the garbage collector's uniform, Giovanni says, "Roberto, I don't know if this is madness or genius, but something about that girl bothers me." Roberto says, "You have always been suspicious, Giovanni. Maybe it's just a father's love. Luca seems to be truly in love." Giovanni says, "Maybe, but I prefer to be sure. What does it cost? If she is as good as Luca thinks, everything will be fine." Roberto says, "Just be careful, my friend. Sometimes poking too much can reveal things we don't want to see." In the first days in disguise, Giovanni positions himself outside the building where Beatrice lives. He watches her from a distance, always keeping his disguise intact. Soon he notices that Beatrice has a seemingly ordinary routine. She would leave for work every day, greet neighbors, and seem to be a kind young woman. However, Giovanni starts to notice something strange. Some of her conversations with strangers at night, always near a small cafe in an alley. One day, while taking out the street trash, he purposely passes by her and drops a heavy box in front of the building. Beatrice approaches and he sees an opportunity to test her reaction. Giovanni pretends to drop the box and crouches down to pick up the trash, while Beatrice approaches. Giovanni in disguise. "Oh, sorry, miss, just an old garbage man trying to do his job." Beatrice says, "Don't worry, do you need help with this?" She bends down and starts picking up some papers from the ground, surprising Giovanni. Giovanni, in disguise, "You are very kind, few people would stop to help." Beatrice says, "Every job is important, my grandmother always said that. Have a good day." Giovanni is torn. Beatrice seemed sincere in her kindness, but he couldn't forget the mysterious conversations. He decides to follow her more closely, and one night he sees her hurriedly enter the alley where he had seen strange people before. She disappears behind a locked door and Giovanni feels he will finally discover something. The next day, Giovanni meets with Roberto to report his suspicions. Giovanni speaking. "She is polite, Roberto, kind even, but something isn't right. Last night I followed her into an alley. She entered a secret door. I need to know what's inside." Roberto says, "Be careful, Giovanni. You might end up messing with things you don't understand." That same night, Giovanni decides to follow Beatrice again. With a feeling that something big was about to be revealed, he puts on his disguise and stays on standby near the alley. To his surprise, she was not alone. A mysterious man in a dark suit was accompanying her to the locked door. Exchanging a few quick and discreet words, sensing danger, Giovanni waits until they both enter to approach and listen to what is happening. He puts his ear to the door, and upon hearing fragments of the conversation, he realizes something frightening. Beatrice is involved with a group that seems to be planning something sinister. Words like debt, betrayal, and inheritance echo in his ears. It all indicates that Beatrice is not the innocent woman Luca believes she is. Giovanni listens to the conversation through the door. Mysterious man speaking. "You know he can't find out, right? Their fortune is one step away from being ours." Beatrice says, "I know everything is under control. Luca would never suspect me, and his father, he will never know." Giovanni, horrified, takes a step back. His worst fears are being confirmed. With his heart racing, Giovanni realizes he needs to act fast. He cannot allow Beatrice to continue manipulating his son, but he also cannot confront her without evidence. His mission of simple spying has turned into a race against time to protect Luca. However, what Giovanni did not expect was Beatrice's next move. The following morning, as he disguises himself again to continue his investigation, she unexpectedly appears right in front of him. She looks at him in a way she never had before, as if she knows something. Beatrice says, "You look familiar. Have we met before, haven't we?" Giovanni feels his blood run cold, but he tries to keep his composure. Giovanni, in disguise, "I'm just the street garbage man, miss. You must be confusing me." Beatrice, smiling enigmatically, "Maybe, but be careful. What we think we know isn't always what it seems to be." This encounter leaves Giovanni shaken. Beatrice starts to give hints that she might know more than she is letting on. What he thought was just a test to discover her character now seems to be an even deeper trap. Giovanni, now overtaken by distrust and fear that Beatrice knows more than she appears to, decides to intensify his investigation. He can no longer act alone, so he asks Roberto for help to find out who the mysterious man he saw with Beatrice really is and what they were plotting. Meanwhile, Luca remains blinded by love. He plans to propose to Beatrice and, unaware of his father's secret mission, starts involving his girlfriend in more family and business matters, which worries Giovanni even more. Time was running out, and he needed to find out what Beatrice was hiding before it was too late. Giovanni and Roberto talk in a cafe, devising a plan to expose Beatrice. Roberto says, "Giovanni, you can't delay this any longer. Luca is about to do something he may regret forever." Giovanni says, "I know, man, I need proof, Roberto. I can't just accuse her without something concrete. And Luca would never forgive me." Roberto speaking, "I found something out about the man you saw. He's associated with an organization, let's say not exactly legal. They are involved in fraud, blackmail. If Beatrice is tied to this, we're in deep waters." Giovanni, with a serious look, realizes that the situation is even more dangerous than he imagined. Giovanni says, "That explains everything. She is after our fortune, using Luca as bait, but I need to know how to expose her." As Giovanni and Roberto investigate, Beatrice begins to show signs that she is aware of something. She becomes more cautious, avoids leaving Luca alone, and seems to distrust everything and everyone. Giovanni feels he is getting closer to a dangerous truth, but he is also increasingly aware that Beatrice is a calculating woman who knows how to play with danger. One night, while Giovanni waits for Luca to come home to have a definitive conversation, he receives an unexpected phone call from Beatrice. She asks to meet him alone in a remote location outside the city. Giovanni hesitates but accepts the invitation, knowing this could be the moment when everything is revealed. On the phone, the tension between Giovanni and Beatrice intensifies. Beatrice says, "Giovanni, I think we need to talk alone. There's something you need to know." Giovanni says, "I'm listening." Beatrice, in an enigmatic tone, "Not over the phone. Meet me at your family's old hotel at 9 p.m. Come alone." Giovanni hangs up the phone, knowing this meeting will be decisive. The meeting promises to change everything. Giovanni feels that Beatrice is about to reveal her true intentions, but what he doesn't know is that she also has a card up her sleeve. That night, Giovanni heads to his family's old hotel, a place that had been closed and abandoned for years, filled with memories of the past. The dark and empty environment further heightens his anxiety. His heart races as he walks down the dark hallway to the main hall. Beatrice is already waiting there, sitting in a chair, illuminated only by the dim light of a lamp. The silence is broken when Giovanni enters the room. Beatrice slowly stands up, with a cold and calculated smile, as if she already knows what's about to happen. She holds an envelope in her hand, and Giovanni knows it could contain the key to all the answers. Giovanni enters the room keeping a firm stance. Giovanni says, "You wanted to talk to me, so talk. What are you hiding?" Beatrice, calm and mysterious. "Always direct, aren't you, Giovanni? I respect that about you, but today you're the one who's going to listen, because everything you thought you knew about me is wrong." She throws the envelope on the table in front of him. Giovanni hesitates for a moment, but opens it and starts to read. What he sees leaves him speechless. Beatrice says, "This is your family's dossier. Secrets that you yourself hid, debts, frauds, broken alliances. I'm not the one after something, Giovanni. You think you discovered me, but what I really did was investigate you. Your empire is crumbling and Luca has no idea. That man you saw, he is my ally, yes, but not to destroy Luca, but to protect his future." Giovanni is in shock. Beatrice, instead of being the opportunist he believed, had gathered information about Giovanni's dirty business, things Luca would never know. She investigated him on her own, and her relationship with the mysterious man was not to destroy Luca, but to clear the family name and ensure he stayed away from his father's mistakes. Giovanni says, "You knew all of this the whole time?" Beatrice speaking, "I knew from the beginning, and I did it to protect Luca. He cannot inherit the empire you built on lies. I love him, Giovanni, and you tried to test me, when it is you who should be tested." Beatrice approaches Giovanni. Beatrice says, "I am not the villain in this story, but you are about to be the man who destroyed his own son unless you confess everything." The tension reaches its peak. Giovanni realizes he underestimated Beatrice and that in trying to expose her secrets, he ended up falling into his own trap. Now he needs to decide: confess everything and save Luca's future, or continue with his secrets and risk losing his son forever. Giovanni feels the weight of Beatrice's words. He always believed he was in control, but now he finds himself cornered. She was not the danger he imagined, but rather the only person who truly cared about Luca and his future. The millionaire feels the gravity of the situation. As if he does not make the right choice, he may lose his son forever. He looks at Beatrice, his eyes filled with both anger and, at the same time, understanding. He knew that everything he had built was at risk. The lies and secrets he had kept for years, and that Luca had never known, were now on the verge of being revealed. Giovanni walks toward the window, looking at the city of Rome. The city lights reflecting the life he created. He realizes there is no way out anymore. Either he saves his empire at the cost of his son's trust, or he finally admits his mistakes and tries to make amends for what he has done. Giovanni takes a deep breath looking at Beatrice. Giovanni says, "I underestimated you, Beatrice. I thought I was protecting you, but I was protecting myself all along. You are right. Luca deserves to know the truth. I will tell him everything." Beatrice says, "If you truly love Luca, that is the only choice. He would never trust you again if he found out another way. But Giovanni, know that even after everything, I still love Luca, and I will do everything to protect him, with or without you." Giovanni nods, resigned. The weight of his decisions finally hits him. Giovanni says, "He is lucky to have you. I just hope he can forgive me." The next morning, Giovanni calls Luca for a private conversation. Sitting in the living room of the huge mansion, the young man, unaware of anything, notices the serious tone on his father's face. Giovanni begins to speak, his voice filled with regret, revealing the secrets he had kept for so many years. Luca listens in silence, his expression changing from surprise to disappointment. When Giovanni finishes, there is a long silence. Luca, with tears in his eyes, slowly gets up and leaves the room without saying a word. Giovanni, alone in the room, whispers to himself. Giovanni says, maybe he will never forgive me, but at least now he knows the truth. Beatrice, who had been watching from a distance, enters the room and approaches Giovanni. Beatrice says, give him time. The father-son bond is strong, but you will need to rebuild that trust. Giovanni says, I hope you are right. He is all I have left. The truth was finally revealed, and the consequences begin to unfold. Giovanni now must deal with the weight of his actions and try to rebuild the relationship with his son, while Beatrice, stronger and more determined than ever, remains by Luca's side. A few months pass, and the Moretti family's life changes drastically. Luca has distanced himself from his father for a while, trying to process everything he had discovered. Giovanni's empire was severely affected by the revelations, but with Beatrice's help he began to rebuild his reputation and the business, this time with more honesty and transparency. Luca, despite the pain and disappointment, found in Beatrice the support he needed. He understood that her love was true and that she had acted to protect him from something much greater. Gradually, his relationship with Giovanni began to be rebuilt, although the path to forgiveness was long. Luca and Beatrice walk hand in hand through the streets of Rome, with the afternoon sun shining upon them. The light atmosphere contrasts with the months of tension they faced. Beatrice says, I knew it would be difficult, but you are handling it in a way that makes me proud. Luca says, I just never imagined my father could have lied so much. But I guess deep down he really wanted to protect me, even if he did it the wrong way. They pause on a bridge over the Tiber River, the sound of the water flowing gently in the background. Beatrice says, and now, have you decided what you are going to do with the family business? Luca, looking at the horizon, I will continue what my father built, but in my own way. I have learned that power and money mean nothing if you lose the people you love. I will not make the same mistakes. In another part of the city, Giovanni walks alone through the old family hotel, now renovated and about to reopen. He looks at the walls, reminiscing about what he has lost and what he can still regain. Beatrice enters the hall, approaching. Beatrice says, I think it's time for the new phase, Giovanni. Luca decided to stay by your side, but you need to keep proving that he can trust you. Giovanni, with a hopeful look, I know, and I will do that. Thank you for not giving up on him or on me. Beatrice says, for Luca, I would do anything. The reopening of the hotel symbolizes a new beginning. The Moretti family, despite all the lies and betrayals of the past, is in the process of healing. The path will be long, but the bond between father and son, with Beatrice's help, will strengthen again. Giovanni learned that not all wealth can protect a family from the consequences of its own choices. True wealth is in the relationships we cultivate and the love we preserve, even in the face of the greatest secrets and mistakes. The story of Giovanni Moretti teaches us that the true value of a person is not in the accumulated fortune or the power gained, but in the relationships they build and the principles they defend. By trying to test his son's girlfriend, Giovanni was forced to confront his own mistakes and secrets, showing that the truth always finds a way to come to light. In the end, the path to redemption and forgiveness may be long, but it is possible when there is love and determination. And you? What values do you most cherish in your relationships? Don't let pride or fear prevent you from being honest with those you love. Sometimes it's the truth that strengthens the most important bonds. Did you like this story? Then share it with friends and family so more people can reflect on the power of truth and trust in our lives. If you enjoyed this story, stay tuned. In the next video, we will have another exciting story that will surprise you until the last moment. You won't want to miss it. Now I want to know from you, what did you think of this story? How do you think Luca and Giovanni should move forward from here? Leave your comment. I would love to know your opinion. Subscribe to our channel Inspired Stories so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. We have many exciting and surprising stories coming your way. Thank you very much for watching up to this point. It's a pleasure to share these stories with you, and I really appreciate your company until the end. At Inspired Stories, we bring narratives that move, surprise, and make you reflect on life, love, and human relationships. Follow us and discover stories that might change the way you see the world. We'll see you in the next video. Until then.